All right, brothers and sisters. This is Michael from Divorce Rehab, and boy, I tell you what, I've had a hard time trying to get the camera shot right, and still don't have the background that I was looking for. But I thought I would change things up a little bit and do something out here in the mountains of South Carolina, and I'm just gonna pan out for you a little bit so you can see that there really is a beautiful view, but unfortunately, I'd have to be sitting in the shade for you to be able to see anything, and then you wouldn't be able to see my glorious face. Anyway, so for those of you that are new and don't know what divorce rehab stands for, it's divorcing yourself from the world and rehabbing yourself through the scriptures. And today, I want to take you to Isaiah chapter 3. And this is a prophecy that came true. Not exactly sure when it came through or came true. I didn't do the research to know what exactly when it happened and what happened. In fact, I didn't really hardly do any research on this chapter at all. But what I'm looking at is what this prophetic word is speaking over Israel. And you know what they say? Whatever happens in Israel, so goes here in the United States. And in many ways, the United States is simply a duplicate of the past that has happened in Israel. And I want to give you a perfect example of this. Now, I'm not going to break down the meanings of everything simply because, I'm not a rabbi or a real Bible teacher or anything like that. I'm going to break it down the way a simple country boy, such as myself, sees it and understands it. And for those of you that really want to know and understand it in a more deep, meaningful way, then I suggest, go ahead and do the research, get in there and read the scriptures for yourself. I challenge you. Don't take my word for it. Do the research, brother and sister. Um, so, if you've seen any of my other videos, you'll know that I mention and I talk a lot about society and the direction that people are going, especially the dating market and men going their own way. And well, this is supposed to be a new thing of men going their own way, but it turns out that women are also going their own way. And whether it's a man or it's a woman, we're all suffering and having to pay the cost of going our own quote unquote way. And when you really think about it, whether it's men going their own way because, the women are terrible and because of feminism, and whether it's women going their own way because of the patriarchy, in the end, it all is self destructive and it's all, for all intents and purposes, an act of selfishness on both parts. And I understand why men, in some ways, are going the direction that they're going, and I understand the reasons why women are going the direction that they're going. Uh, but this particular scripture that I'm going to read is really explaining the direction that not only this nation is going, but probably the whole world in some ways is going. And so it starts out, chapter 3, verse 1. It says, "For behold, the Lord of hosts, doth take away from Jerusalem and from Judea the stay and the staff, and the whole stay of bread, and the whole stay of water." And so when I think of the stay, I don't have an actual breakdown of it, but when I think about it, I'm thinking of the stay as the protective piece that God gives to a nation, especially a nation that is quote unquote claiming to be a godly nation. He gives every nation a certain measure of peace and a certain measure of protection according to um, their submission, so to speak, to God and His will, and trying to live a righteous way. Even if they don't understand who God is, God Himself in the scriptures says that He writes the laws upon the hearts of man. So, the men know, you don't kill, they know that you don't steal. These are all things in the Ten Commandments that we instinctively just know because God wrote it in our hearts, and it says it in the Word. If you don't believe me, do some research. Google it if you have to. Okay. And then it says, the mighty man, uh, uh, let's see, well, let me go back to the stay of bread and the stay of water. Okay, when you look at that, I think of bread and water are the basic necessities that a person has to have in order to live and to survive. Food and water. You could even include clothing, um, housing, you know, your needs are being met. And if you think of the decline here in this country, look at how expensive food is getting. Um, Look at how hard it is to get pure water, even. Look at how I want to say it's the FDA, but I don't think they're the ones. I'm not sure. I can't remember who is actually in charge of the quality of the food that we eat today. But I mean, it's just terrible. Countries are banning the kind of food that they'll even take into their own countries from the U.S. because it's gotten so bad here in this country. And unfortunately, the food companies or the people like Monsanto's that are in charge, they've got so much money that they can basically feed us poison, and there's not anything um, the populace can do about it, except for just not buy any Monsanto's products. Unfortunately, most everything that we buy has bioengineered something in it, Monsanto's, and it's getting to the point where that if you want to have any real food, you got about just grow it for yourself, and it can't be genetically modified food that you're growing, or else you're basically eating the same crap that you get at the store at some level. Okay, and then it says, verse 2, it says, the mighty men and the men of war, the judge and the prophet, and the prudent and the ancient, the captain of 50, and the honorable man, and the counselor, and the cunning, um, and the eloquent orator. And I will give children to be their princes, and babes shall rule over them. Basically, what I see here is woke. The woke people of this world, to some degree, are ruling over the rest of the world with their antics and with their insensitive, woke behavior. They're basically controlling the entire world at some level, to some degree. Um, the young people are just so easily offended and upset. But it's not even all of them. It's just a very small percentage of people that get any attention at all. And it's like the old saying, the door hinge that squeaks the loudest is going to be the one that gets the attention. And unfortunately, that's the situation. Um, And it's getting completely out of control is what it is. Um, but here in the near future, things I think are going to change. I think that war is going to eliminate a lot of that wokeism that we are faced with today. And then, so here we go. Let's see. Let's start at verse 5. It says, "And the people shall be oppressed, every one by another, and every one by his neighbor. The child shall behave himself proudly against the ancient, and the base against the honorable." I want you to think about it. I mean, that describes the culture that we live in. The young people, they don't have any respect for the older people. Um, in many cultures today, the older people are, for all intents and purposes, are being ignored. Um, they are, many of them are just being sent to um, nursing homes, left and ignored. And it used to be that the ancient people or the older people used to be revered and honored and respected. It used to be that the older generation would hand down their wealth to the next generation, and they would teach that next generation how to grow their wealth. Unfortunately, through the generations, the older generations have basically squandered their wealth away and the knowledge, and it has progressively become to a point where it's getting dumbed down more and more. And the governments of the world have basically squandered away the income that they get or the taxes that we are oppressed to give. And so now it's gotten to the point now where the younger generation can't even afford to take care of the older generation. They just don't have the money. And I mean, I hate to say it, in my situation, it's a little different in the sense that I tried to get my mother to move in with me, but she chose to stay in the mountains of West Virginia. And, there's no work or income out there for me to be able to live. I managed to talk my dad into moving in with me, but unfortunately, after I got a divorce, not by my own choosing, I was under court order to sell the house. And my dad, unfortunately, his health began to deteriorate so much so that so he ended up in the hospital during COVID from a stroke, and I had to sell the house, and it ended up selling while he was in the hospital. And I was unfortunately homeless for a couple of years. And so he had no place to come back to, and even if he had, I wouldn't have been able to take care of him because he was just in no condition to even be at home by himself. But had I been married and had the fortune to be able to sustain myself and a family and the house, and we had a house that was big enough to keep him, I would have done that. But again, life throws a curveball at you, and it says, "When a man shall take hold of his brother, of the house of his father, saying, Thou hast clothing, be thou our ruler, and let this ruin be under thy hand." Okay, and that would take me a little more time to think about exactly what does that mean. And it says, "In the days shall he swear, saying, I will not be an healer, for in my house is neither bread, neither clothing. Make me not a ruler of the people." So even, those that are considered to be doing well aren't doing as well as you might think. Credit debt is at an all-time high. And this country, just like Jerusalem, here in verse 8, it says, Jerusalem is ruined and Judah is fallen, because their tongue and their doings are against the Lord, to provoke the eyes of his glory. Think about how this nation, which was considered a godly nation by many, how they speak against God, how they think about God. We removed God from our schools. We removed God from our politics. And now the wealth of this nation is coming down. It's crashing down all around us. And it says here, verse 9, it says, the show of their countenance doth witness against them, and they declare their sin as Sodom, and they hide it not. Woe unto their soul, for they have rewarded evil unto themselves. Think about that. Think of our countenance. Think of our behavior. Think of how we think and act, the way we treat each other. And it's just getting worse. Verse 10, say ye the righteous, that it shall be well with him, for they shall eat the fruit of their doings. So in other words, those that are living righteously are living according to God's will and doing what they're supposed to be doing. And God is blessing them, despite how bad things may appear to be. And so this is part of my encouragement. Do God's will. Live according to his plan. Find out what that is by investing yourself in the Word of God. And He will lead you. He will guide you. He will show you what you should or shouldn't do. Let's see, verse 14, it says, the Lord will enter into judgment with the ancients of his people and the princes thereof. For ye have eaten up the vineyard, the spoil of the poor in your houses. What mean ye that ye beat my people to pieces and grind the faces of the poor, saith the Lord God of hosts. Moreover, the Lord saith, because the daughters of Zion are haughty. Well, let me stop right there. Okay, so let's go back. Let's look at 14 and 15. Think about this, okay? Think about the government officials, how they're constantly raising the taxes, how they're constantly creating red tape, how they're constantly taking our freedoms away. I mean, you can't even dig a hole in the ground in your backyard without a permit. That's right. You can't go fishing either. You can't go fishing in the creek in your backyard or a pond or a lake without having some kind of fisher's permit, because then you've got some game warden hiding in the bushes waiting to, take photos of you and take pictures of you and write you up a ticket and possibly even confiscate your gun, send you to jail. I mean, it's for all intents and purposes, it's a kind of slavery here in the land of the free. And what's crazy about this is we're convinced that we live in a free nation. But do we? How free is our nation? And somebody say, "Oh well, our nation is better than any other nation. It's still the light on the shining mountain. It's still the American dream is still available. It's still there." And yeah, compared to other nations, but compared to what it's really supposed to be, I mean, our founders of this nation would be spinning in their graves if they saw the freedom that they fought for and how it has been basically taken from us. And by our choice, by electing officials that took our freedom away. We did it gladly. And it's just like Charles Schwab said. He said, "You will own nothing and you will be happy." I'm going to tell you something, brothers and sisters. His words are so true that some way, somehow, we fight against what he says, but for the true reality of it is we already don't own anything. Think about it. You don't pay your taxes on your property. What happens? It gets taken away from you, don't it? You don't pay federal taxes. What happens? You go to jail. Eventually, that mess will catch up with you and you'll end up in jail. Just like a little slave. And yet, someone like Charles Schwab says what has already happened and is already actively in place. And yet, here we are. I don't know what he's talking about. No, this is America. This is land of the free. Look, who are you fooling? Yourself? You're fooling yourself. No. We already don't own anything. And some of us are completely content and completely happy, living like little slaves in the Matrix. If anybody's ever seen that movie before, that will really blow your mind. But I mean, it basically, they're showing it in films. We are slaves, okay? Whether you want to accept it or not. It just is what it is, brother and sister. So, I didn't want to make this video but so long. Let's see. So let's go on. Moreover, the Lord saith, because the daughters of Zion are haughty and walk with stretched forth necks and wanton eyes, walking and mincing as they go, and making tinkling with their feet. Therefore the Lord will smite with a scab the crown of their head of the daughters of Zion, and the Lord will discover their secret parts. Okay. I'm not sure I understand what the scab on the crown of their head is. I don't know what that is. But I want you to think about the modern woman influenced by Ephemism. Got her head stretched, or her neck stretched out, her head stretched out. I want you to think about how that looks. You ain't gonna tell me what to do. I don't need a man. Getting the point? Oh yeah? Nose up in the air, looking down at you, even though they're 5 inches shorter than you, and you're already 5'6". That's the modern age that we live in. That's women going their own way. How's it working for you, ladies? You know? And then it says, let's see. So they got this haughty, self-righteous, oh, we don't need men type of mentality. Walking with stretched necks and wanting eyes. That means they're lusting after Chad and Tyrone. Okay? All of the men that have the boxes checked for the 6-figure income, along with the 6-inch love organ and 6 foot tall, and well, you know what I mean. I mean, if the beast walked up, the man of sin, because he's a perfect 6, they'd be looking at him with wanting eyes. And I think that's kind of interesting. The 3 6s. 666. Think about what these women are wanting, what they're worshiping. Okay? That's why I said what I just said. Okay? I'm not sure what mincing means. I probably should have looked that up to be able to explain it. But then apparently tinkling with their feet. Okay, so what that means is the women back in the day, even though they may have dressed a little more, how should I say it, modestly, Have to excuse the four-wheeler riding by. I'm on a country road. They had jewelry that they would wear, ankle bracelets that they would wear around their ankles that had little bells on them that would tinkle. And that was their thirst trap of the day, to get noticed, to be seen, and to be heard by men. So maybe they weren't going around so much, oh, I don't need a man, and with, as much as they were, and wearing, low cut midriff blouses and tight pants, or, short skirts, and gobs of makeup, dressed, to whatever you want to call it, a streetwalker, and got all their clown makeup on and acting like clowns. And the ladies they've really joined the circus, I'll tell you. But anyway, that's what they are. They're circus clowns, many of them. Sorry, ladies. I'm not trying to be mean. And I'm not saying all of you guys, all of you ladies are that way. I'm just saying many of the modern women of today who think they're that and all of that in a bag of chips. They're circus clowns. But anyway, in some ways. Um, but anyway, they would wear these ankle bracelets, and that was a way that they would get attention from men. So it's just done a little differently, but still the same thing, same mentality, same attitude. Um, and God says He knows their secret parts. So that means He knows what you're doing with your bodies, getting that body count. And if you don't think that's important and that He's not taking inventory, yeah, He's taking inventory. Not only is He taking inventory, but so are the men. And I hate to say it, men, but regardless of what you think about whether it's okay for a man to go out and mess around and sleep around and whatnot, God doesn't look on that favorably either. Whatever you may think, I don't care. I mean, the Scripture is very clear on living a holy and pure and righteous life. But sin is sin. Either way you look at it, you're going to go to hell for sin. And whether it's a man or whether it's a woman doing it, I'm sorry, I'm not going to pull any punches here. It's just bad either way, whether it's a man or a woman. And it's different for a woman, just like it's different for a man, but it's still sin. Either way, you're going to go to hell for it. If you're not having if you're not having relations with your wife, that's just the way it is, and that's the way it's written out in the Bible. You don't have to agree with me, but it's in the Word. Trust me. You don't believe me? Google it. Okay. In that day, this is verse 18. In that day, the Lord will take away the bravery of their tinkling ornaments about their feet, and their and I'm not sure. I've never understood this. And their round tires will the moon, or the round tires like the moon. Okay, so I don't know what that means. That's probably something in the culture back then. I don't know. And yeah, this is another verse 19. The chains and the bracelets and the mufflers. Okay, that sounds like car parts to me. Tires, mufflers. The bonnets and the ornaments of the legs, and the headbands, and the tablets, and the earrings. So, okay, these ladies are dressed to a T. And apparently, they were exposing their legs, or else it wouldn't bring it up. Let's see, the rings and the nose jewels, the changeable suits of apparel, and the mantles, and the wimples, and the crisping pins, the glasses, and the fine linen, and the hoods, and the veils. Okay, so these women were dressing in a way, apparently, that was very provocative. And I mean, Isaiah explains it, but he explains it in a culture of understanding for the time. And since I'm not real well versed in that culture of that time, I can't really explain any of that to you. But let's just say the women were dressed provocatively. However you want to look at that, my goodness, they could have even been dressed in some ways more modestly than women of today. But either way, they were not dressed in a godly way. And you men and women know what modesty is. You know how to dress. You know, I mean, you don't have to be stupid about it. You know how to dress. Okay? And it shall come to pass that uh, instead of sweet smell, they shall they shall be stink, and instead of a girdle, a rent, and instead of well set hair, baldness, and instead of a girdle of sackcloth, and burning instead of beauty. Okay. And the men, verse 25, and the men shall fall by the sword, and thy mighty in war, and her gates shall lament and mourn, and she being desolate shall sit upon the ground. Okay. So the men shall fall by the sword. I want you to think about that for a minute. So that means it's going to be a lot of war. That means there's going to be less men. And, and it says there's going to be war. Well, they're passing the draft here in the United States. And they're trying to pass it both for men and women. But you and I both know that there's a high probability that there's probably not going to be very many women that are going to be foot soldiers that are going to be in dangerous way. Okay? And I foresee it happening something very similar to something like what's going to happen in Ukraine. Think about it. They started the draft there, and they drafted all their young men. Once all their young men got slaughtered, all the young women, marital age or that are of the age, started going to other countries and started finding other men. And the older ladies, I guess, either stayed or started evacuating, and the kids and all that. But then the only thing that were left were the older men. And it got to a point where now they're drafting like men that are in their 60s, for Pete's sakes. I mean, men that are barely old enough or barely strong enough to even freaking carry a gun. Okay? They're out there fighting. I mean, that's just crazy to me. I'm 51. I know what I could do when I was 21, and I know what I can do now. Trust you me. Yeah, I'm stronger than a 25-year-old girl. But I also am spreading out all over the place, and I weigh 215 pounds. I'm a fat slob, toothless wonder, balding, middle-aged man. And it may come down to them asking me to go to war? Are you kidding me? You taxed the hell out of me. I worked my butt off trying to survive in this country, and now you want me to go to war for you? What? Okay, yeah. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, just think about that one for a minute. I guess my taxes weren't enough. Now they want my blood. Oh, makes my blood just boil thinking about it. Sorry for the video being so long. And then I'm going to be getting to the nitty gritty here shortly. It says in chapter 4, it says, "In that day, 7 women shall take hold of one man, saying, we will eat our own bread and wear our own apparel. Only let us be called by thy name, to take away our reproach." Oh my goodness. Oh, this is the end of the video. Just kidding. Okay, so I want you to think about this. Think of what's happening in this economy. The women have decided to go their own way through feminism. The economy is crashing. And men are choosing not to have anything to do with women today. A large amount of them. I mean, of course, you can always have the simps. But I want you to think about this, okay? So when all the simps die out in war, and all the other men that aren't simping die out in war, you know who that leaves if they don't decide to draft us old codgers? Yeah, looks like the pickings are looking pretty ripe. Unfortunately, the question you have to ask yourself is, what kind of women are left? Woke 30-year-old, 35, 40-year-old, 50-year-old women with cats and dogs that think, oh, I don't need a man. Now all of a sudden, oh, I need a man. 7 women. I couldn't handle one. And when I gave her everything I could, a house, a job, I got her a job. When we finally got divorced, when she decided to divorce me, I got her a good paying job. You know, she's making about $700 a week or so, give or take. $100 or whatever. And literally lived a half a mile down the road from her job. We worked for the same company. And I never laid a hand on her. She never even heard me say a cuss word. I was very stoic most of the time. Rarely ever raised my voice at her. Never ever intentionally hit her or beat her. You know, I didn't have a drinking habit. I never cheated on her. I didn't hang out with the boys. I just worked a lot, and came home. But that wasn't good enough. And she eventually started hanging out with the wrong divorced loser type women, the woke type. And they eventually convinced her that, yeah, you probably need a divorce. And she ended up divorcing me, going against her family's will, aunts and uncles, and even one of those women that told her, oh, well, maybe you just need to cheat on him. When she finally found out who I was and met me for the first time, even she told her, oh, he's a good guy. You ought to keep him. But by this time, she'd already made it up in her mind that that was it. She was done. And she didn't want to try and work it out. It didn't matter how it was going to affect the rest of the family, the kids, or even her own life. She just, was so focused on, oh, I'm not happy. I want a happier life, and I want to be, I want to do my own thing. And she felt that in some way, somehow, I was oppressive. But the true fact of the matter is, I was hardly ever home. I was working all the time, trying to provide for the family. And long story short, but anyway, what I just want to say is that you ladies, it's going to get really bad for you before it gets better. You're going your own way. Us men are going to let you do it. And by the time you realize that you made a mistake, you're going to be, for all intents and purposes, your early to mid 30s. 80%, 80 to 90% of your eggs are going to be rotten and gone. And perfect example of this. I've got two girls that are interested in, I want you to think about this, a toothless, balding, 51-year-old man who's divorced, living in a studio apartment in a lower income area. My rent is $530 a month, just to give you a perspective on that. And one of these ladies is from the Philippines, which to her it's probably not a big deal because she doesn't have money either and would just love to come to the United States. She's 37 years old, never been married, doesn't have kids. And even at her age, on a scale from 1 to 10, compared to the American women, oh my goodness, she's at least a 7. As far as beauty and looks and in personality, she's probably closer to a 5. But as far as looks go, for her age, oh my goodness. And then I got another lady. She's Chinese. And she's pretty good looking too. She's in a different category of beauty, but she's fresh, fit, and trim. At the age of 34, how do you Asian beauties do it, man? You need to teach these ladies here in America. Now, this girl is in Texas. She's, so both of these girls are far away. So I'm safe, boys. But the thing is this girl, on the other hand, she worked on her career. She has a rich uncle that taught her how to manage her money. And she's got money. She's wealthy. And, her daily driver is a McLaren, for Pete's sakes, okay? But this woman is interested in me, and she's trying to teach me how to manage my money. And, and she's got all these ideas and dreams and everything. And it's just because I guess I happen to be a high quality man. I'm not a high value man. I'm very broke. This divorce is costing me $1,100 a month right now. Okay? Everything from having to pay for my ex's attorney fees to child support to just other things that I have to pay without going into any great detail. Yeah, divorce is disastrous. I mean, I'm literally paying a mortgage payment for the cost of this divorce. And so, like I say, boys, those of you that are married, do the best you can to save it, even if you are miserable, because in the long run, it's going to be cheaper, unless, of course, you're married to somebody like I was, who was suffering from narcissistic personality disorder, which, as a result of me being married to her, I was suffering from all kinds of health issues. I was probably going to eventually suffer organ failure and either pull the trigger or just physically, I was just going to die. I was just going to rot away and die, starting from the inside and out. And so, in a situation like that, I'm not saying that, I don't know, to death do you part. I don't believe in divorce. I would have stayed with a woman until I died. You're going to have to make that decision for yourself. But I just want you to know, guys, keep your head up, put your nose and your eyes on God, put your nose in the Bible and your eyes on God. And ladies, I encourage you to do the same thing. Even though for some of you it might be a little late, there's hope if you put your trust in God and if you submit to Him. And if the men are doing the same thing, yeah, it's not a perfect situation. We don't live in a perfect world. You may not be so young, and men, you may not be so young, but there are possibilities to find happiness in God first and then in each other. And I'm not opposed to marrying somebody that's in their 30s. I've already had children. I've already been married and gone through that experience. It was a nasty, terrible experience, but I just don't know. If I married somebody that was, in their mid 20s, say, and, and wanted children, uh, would I be interested in bringing kids into this world the way things are? And, that's a commandment of God, to go out and prosper and be fruitful and multiply. And it would take a lot of changes in my own life for that to work out. And God may bless me with that option. I just don't know yet at this point in time in my life. But anyway, I'm going to go ahead and wrap up this video. It's 45 minutes long, and I don't want to bore the heck out of everybody. Um, but I just want you all to stay focused on God and have a blessed day. And I'll see you guys later.